welcome to Painting Arts and Crafts. Today we are going to do a simple project where we simply paint some enamel onto some tin. And I found these cute little pots at the store. And I said, oh my gosh, they're adorable, but I would like to do something to it. So I've already done a couple, so you can see right away what the final product looks like. And after I paint these, I do fire them in the oven. And that is done for about half an hour at 340 degrees. Depending on which paints you use, you're going to have to look at the different times. Some are 30 minutes at 350, 40 minutes at 320, 325 for 40 minutes. You want to go with, if you use multiple paints, which I usually do, you want to look at the longest time and the highest heat to make sure that all of the paints you're working with cure. In this instance, I'm using a Marabou porcelain glass paint, which is a very fine liner. I like it. The one thing that I have to note with this is that it will chip back off of glass or metal or anything that's not absorbent if you don't cover it with a clear coat, which is what I use the Folk Art Clear Medium for. I'll cover it with that. To get fine lines, I got one of these little squeeze bottles. It's easy to squeeze, and it's what I generally like to use. And then just some black folk art paint in case there's, in my design, something big that I want to fill in with that as opposed to the pen. And if you want to use color, you can. This other one that I did came out really cute. And what I did is, it's all black and white, but then I put some gold. And to put the gold in, I put a yellow underneath, and then I top coated it with a shiny gold. And that gives it a little bit of shimmer. I thought it came out really cute. And I make these for gifts or just to decorate my own house. I also sell them on Etsy, so it's a way for me to support my crafting hobby. All the things that you're going to need are the paints here. You want a pen. I'm going to show you how to very easily transfer a design that you've created or that you've purchased from a piece of paper using transfer paper and tape. And we'll transfer that to the design. That way we don't have to worry about attempting to freehand something. This is something everybody can do. And this is paper that normally is, I think, used for wood crafts, but I find it's great for rubbing off onto anything. If you want to use it like tracing paper, it will leave a carbon imprint on the background that wipes back off later. If you want to do any touch-ups, you'll need some brushes. You don't need anything fancy. I buy, honestly, a very cheap bunch of brushes, generally like a pack of 20 brushes, and that way I don't have to worry about it. I'm doing my really nice paintings, then I'll use my nicer brushes. But for crafting, it really doesn't matter. It's not required at all. So the first thing I've got to do is measure where or place where I want this to go. So I've already cut my transfer paper to be the size that I need for the items that I'm doing. So the other thing I'll do is I'll cut the paper because I'm going around a bowl, and I'll just little slices into the paper here. And what that'll do is it'll help it wrap around the bowl. This is almost like tissue paper, so I don't have to worry about slicing that. You do have to make sure that you've got the matte side facing the object because that's where the transfer is going to occur. And generally, you only get one use out of this because once the carbon rubs off, it's just gone. And there's nothing more that you're going to be able to do. I know I'm going to center it somewhere around here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that down. So that doesn't slide. Then I'm going to fold this in half and make sure that I've got my letters lined up. I need to find my dead center on that. And then when I look at the pot, I find the center on that. And the hardest thing is just to make sure that it's straight. So either make it very crooked on purpose or do your best to make it straight. So I think somewhere around there. All right, so there's the first one. And then what I'll do is a quick test to see if I've got this somewhat level. And all right, I'm finding a spot that repeats. There we go. Right around there, but I feel like it's too high. So pull it down a little bit. It's where I want it to be. I have terrible handwriting, so I cannot just decide I'm going to freehand and write on anything. I like a ballpoint pen. It can be any kind of sharp object, as long as it's not going to tear through the paper. And I'll be able to just press down, and that will transfer the drawing. And that's it. I'm just going to scratch over the ink so that when I lift everything up, it'll be there. I'm gonna do all of this and come back to you and show you what it looks like when I peel it all off. Now here's a tip. When you're doing this, the paper doesn't go flush to the item, and that's fine. So what I do is I just put a thumb in front of each of the letters that I'm tracing, and that presses the paper down in that one spot. I don't worry about being exact, because the carbon ink that's coming on here isn't really ink, it's more like graphite pencil. So I'm going to be able to wash off with just a Q-tip and water anywhere that that I get some of the graphite that I don't want it to be there. This is really just to give me a guide for when I go back with the paint, so that I get a nicer design than I could do if I went straight onto it. I can paint paintings, but there's a lot of forgiveness with acrylic that you do not get when you're just doing a straight black and white. All right, so I'm done. And we're just gonna peel that off. And it looks like I ran short on this, which is fine. I can make up the difference. I'll have it right here. I'll be able to see it. Now, these pens, you have to shape them up a little bit. Porcelain and glass Fineliner pens from Marabou. And when you first get them, you'll have to press them a few times to get them started. Okay. You can see I can get a pretty fine line. And since this is going to be Farmhouse Rustic, I'm not worried about this looking like it came out of a marketing campaign or something. Don't care about it being exact or super smooth lines. In fact, I actually would prefer that it was just a little bit rough around the edges, and this pen does that, especially since it's going across some basic metal. Now, before I did my painting, I did wash this, of course, just to get any oils off of it. Basic soapy water, and then wipe it with rubbing alcohol. There'll be a link to the instructions on and the steps and what you need. And a lot of that stuff you're going to have right around your house. Paper towels. The only thing you're probably going to have to buy is the actual paints. And this one's so easy. You really just need black and a clear coat when you're done. Happiness. But you can see how thin I'm able to get that line by using the pen. much thinner than I would be able to with even my thinnest brush. I have one that's a little bit thinner than this. But what I'll use my brushes for is, let's say I want to fill the hearts in, and I don't want to use up all my ink to fill in the hearts. So I've got two options. I can put a dot of the black and just kind of smear it around into the shape of a heart and kind of take up that spot, right? Or I can go around the edge of the heart with the pen and save the ink pen, which is, it's more expensive when you are using a pen like this than it is when you have just a jar of paint. But if I do that, and then I come over here and I take a tiny bit of the black, and then I can just fill that heart in with that, just like that. Once I've finished painting the whole design, I will go back over it with this clear coat. And I do that because, again, Marabou's porcelain, if it's not covered or touching against some sort of enamel paint, it tends to come back off. And you can't sell things like that. But if you go back over things with a clear coat, and what happens, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera or not, but it ends up being almost raised lettering. Right? Everything feels, and it's got a little bit of raised lettering to it. Because all I've done is I've gone back over the ink itself with this clear. And it's not hard to do. It comes out white initially, so don't let that throw you. But I'll go over this like so, and about 30-40 minutes, it'll dry totally clear. And it'll be nice and raised like that too. So the marker's already dry. That heart is not. That heart is, because the marker dries, it's thinner, and it dries really fast. So this whole project took me less than an hour, and I'll do both sides with two different designs. And the reason I do that is because I like to change things out, and I think other people might too, where one day you've got this design on the shelf, and the next day you have a different design on the shelf. So you might get tired of looking at that one. You might want to flip it around and look at that side. And, you know, these are cute because I could put a planter in here. I could throw in and leave it by itself. I could put in a couple of the fake flowers and have that just sitting on the shelf. So what do you do if you've made a mistake? Let's say you've gone over something and you accidentally put some ink where you didn't want it to go. Go ahead and let that ink dry up, and then come back and just scrape it off. It hasn't been fired yet. It hasn't been clear coated. It's going to come right back off as if it wasn't there. If I take a Q-tip and some water, I can rub off the graphite. I'll do that before I fire it. I can do it afterwards too. I mean, it's just, graphite's just pencil. There's really not a whole lot to it. Kind of hard to do this through the camera lens though. But I think you get the idea. So for the tree, I just did a quick outline with the pen, and then I took my brush and just filled in by pushing down the brush, kind of a stab, stab, stab movement, like bang, 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 bang. Easy enough. And with trees, you don't want to put too much color, because then you won't get to see the tree. So I think it's going to come out nice. Fairly simple project. I'm going to finish this up. I'll come back and I'll show you the final end result, and I'll make sure you have links for everything that you might need in order to do this yourself. And I hope you have some wonderful crafting.